I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order at 7:03. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Van Churen.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Janik.
Here.
Mr. Dembinski.
Here.
Mr. Wienarski.
Here.
Mr. Nahorn.
Present.
And the chair is here. All members of the administration are here. And we also have Mr. Vukovac for one of our items that we'll be discussing, the third item on the agenda tonight. First item on the agenda is A1839, reappropriate funds in various departments per the attached Appendix A. Mr. Patek, you want to?
Yes, sir. So Wayne, the auditor, has worked with several of the department heads, and between that and noticing some shortfall of money throughout the various departments, they decided to reappropriate money from one account in a department to another. And you'll notice on Appendix A, the majority of them are going to things like overtime, salary-related items throughout the different departments. So any questions outside of that? You will notice on the water department, the biggest line item, taking the total amount of that money into overtime wages, of line item of $25,000. That's all for the meter project. To finish that up for the year. So, but the majority of this happens every year from what I understand. So this is fairly routine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And he just mentions that it's going to the meter project. What we're doing to try to speed up the process, a lot of our employees are working overtime, so it's actually money we'll be saving with the meter project from paying Bellwether to money we're paying. It's about a wash, paying our guys overtime to do it. So it's just going to help make that process faster, get more meters in the houses quicker. And of course, we didn't prepare for that at the beginning of the year, so that's why we need to transfer those monies.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Dembinski.
We need an emergency. I'd probably ask for emergency and just get it done, if you could.
Move to take
Oh, it is to say emergency.
item A1839 to the floor of council with emergency.
Mr. Wienarski.
I'll give it a second.
Any further comments or questions, Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under building, what is the comm plan review?
That's a commercial plan review. So we've had a lot of commercial building going on, so we're having to have our engineers review more plans than we expected, so that's actually a good thing. So we're just taking money from repairs and maintenance, which we didn't do, and putting in commercial plan reviews.
So
So
these
we
are
hire-
our
we hire
part-time,
outside.
these are our part-time inspectors and stuff, or is this going to
Commercial plan
upheld?
reviews, so when somebody comes in with a set of plans,
Right,
we have to pay somebody to review those, an engineer.
okay, so we're paying,
So-
okay.
We've got more of those happening than what we would have expected, so that's a good thing.
Who do we contract out for that?
I'll be honest, it's, I'm sure it's probably some of it's Bramhall, I would
Okay.
assume.
All right, thank you, no further questions. Yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else? Seeing no further comments, we have a motion to take A1839 to the floor of council with the emergency. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next item, A1840, increase appropriations for the following fire part-time wages and fire levy gas and oil. Account 100-1002-52113, part-time wages in the amount of $28,500, and 240-1005-52402, gasoline and oil in the amount of $4,000.
This is another item.
Mr. Patek.
Yes, thank you. If you guys have noticed, there's been a massive increase in fire rooms this year, which has meant more part-time volunteers coming on board for those. So they're heavily under, and this is a pure increase in appropriation from the general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Dembinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to be clear, from the last item, we transferred 11,500, and then this is also in addition, another 28,500 that we're asking for an increase in appropriations.
There's 32.
Yeah, reappropriating, or moving some money from one account to another under the fire department versus increasing in total.
But we're still moving, that's still, all of that is still part-time wages that we under budgeted or that we are exceeding because of the
Correct.
fires.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yanarski.
Thank you, sir. I guess if I could just help understanding, why is this a two-part process instead of including it all in the original request here? We have a second part.
One's a reappropriation, one's a
One, yeah.
increase.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, some of it's moving
I'm sorry.
money around within the budget, but we're running short, so, and this amount is completely new money into the budget, so it's over here stored in the general fund in La La Land, for lack of better words, and we're actually bringing it into the fire department for the first time.
Okay.
So it's new money,
5-watt bulb just went off over my head. Thank you.
that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Dembitsky.
Move to take A-18-40 to the floor of council with emergency.
Mr. Janik. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, there's a motion to take A-18-40 to the floor of council with the emergency. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 7-0. Last item, A-18-43, authorization for upgrades to the video recording and broadcasting of the council committee and regular meetings not to exceed $50,000. Mr. Vukovic.
Good evening. I will have to start off by saying I find it a pleasure and kind of awkward for me to stand in front of you. It's supposed to go for us, so. The mayor earlier in the year tasked me with an item to come up with a better improvement to the council chambers and broadcasting and how we get our information, our transparency out to the residents. Part of that is because of not only the quality that we can actually provide for residents, but also accessibility. Accessibility right now is currently for live streaming is limited to Spectrum cable customers on a cable channel that most people haven't really realized. You're way back there, aren't you? Haven't really realized what channel they're on. In addition to WOW being in town, plus the satellite providers such as Dish Network, DirecTV, and those who don't subscribe to cable channels like myself, or any kind of television for the last 6 years, be able to watch the proceedings here, transparency is not very well, easily accessible. With that, we wanted to make sure that we try to find some kind of solution that also handles the ability for reliability and serviceability. When we have an issue, we need to make sure that somebody's there for support. When we have to make sure that we're having a broadcast that's going to be there. We also want to make sure it's available to more people, like I said, than just the other people, such as live web streaming as an example. So we also want to make sure that some kind of system was going to be interacting with some future documents or document management systems or any other systems we may be implementing in the city, such as an agenda management system, which may also in turn relate back to a broadcast system with the open APIs. We want to make sure also that it's very cost effective. We don't want to be in a position where we're spending more money out of our expenses to run something like this than we're already doing, because otherwise, you know, what's the point? We want to come back with all those kind of different advantages. So what I did was I looked at some other systems. I looked at some and spoke with some other cities. Some cities did some great RFPs, took a lot of work and done a lot of research, got a lot of responses back. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of stole some of their information, some of their, saved some time, and also did some more investigation on my own, and kind of narrowed it down to one company that we're kind of leaning towards as right now. everybody's got some of that information that was part of initial proposal of what services they offer. But a lot of the stuff that's included in there, what's being appropriated or asked for appropriations, is the amount of money it's going to take to upgrade the council chambers to the new system. It's going to include 3 high-definition cameras with tilt pan and zoom capabilities. It's going to include also the streaming appliance, the video switching, all the hardware that's necessary. The hardware is going to be in the back room. That also includes the design, the travel expenses, and the installation to get all the equipment going in the system here. And that also will include redundant recording appliances and a bunch of features that we're going to have a demonstration on here in a little bit. That is what the appropriations is a request for. Right now, our initial quote, and I'm still working out some details on different equipment and making sure we get good pricing, is well below that amount. It's actually, right now, it's under 40,000 for everything. I don't anticipate it going any higher. I'm hoping to get it a little lower. So, some of the features that this is actually going to give us is agenda search capabilities. So right now, when we go to watch our streamed videos on YouTube, we have our announcements there. We have the ability to see what date of the committee or council meeting, but you're not going to be able to find anything. I mean, if I wanted to look up some of the fun meetings back in the day, like chickens or something, I can't find a chicken meeting unless I have the date, right? So you have the agenda searching and indexing. So in the agenda indexing will give us the ability, once we have an agenda item like tonight's agenda items, each has a specific point of when it starts in the video, or when it starts in the meeting rather. Post-production, those videos will all be indexed so that if the person wants to see just the finance committee meeting, the third item of this discussion, they'll be able to click on that and be able to take them right to that point of the video without having to search. They also have a feature called Sound Search. Sound Search is a little unique. It is software enabled, where it's going to analyze the verbiage that is being heard within the meeting and actually index keywords that it hears, such as water or such as electric. And I should be bringing up those 2 items. So, and at any time, at any point in the history of the archive, if those words are being actually recognized, the keyword being recognized, you'll be able to click on that item and see all those points of videos where those actual words were spoken and take you right there. We'll also have some more analytics right now in YouTube. We do have the ability to see how many people have viewed the video, but we don't know at that point really how many people have started and stopped it, what points they watched it. There'll be more granular analytics available with these videos because they're really broken down by each indexed agenda item, so that if everybody would listen to the third item this evening, you would see how many people were there. We also be able to track how many people are watching live as well. Social media streaming is also available. We'll be able to actually stream live via Facebook or YouTube. It also includes live and post-production. So in the live production, the system is going to be actually monitored and run by remotely. So when somebody's in the dais here and we're speaking, they'll be zooming in on this person. When it's time for the mayor to speak, they'll zoom in on the mayor and make automatic switching between multiple cameras, in addition to having character title support at the bottom, announcing, in case you forget, that it's Mayor Marcoslo, with the date and the time actually live that's happening at the meeting as well. In post-production, they'll be taking any kind of dead space out, such as when we go to executive session, or when there's any other kind of switching between meetings. Prior to being posted in the archives, they would actually go through there, review that, take those dead sections out, and post them up in the archives. There is 24/7 customer support, and of course hardware support and the such. It also will include making sure that they upload a year's worth of, or we can do more. I'm not even sure how much we have there of YouTube currently, but a year's worth of the past would also be available for our archive on the website and the such there. So, any questions on that kind of stuff? Because what I can do is I can show you some examples and hopefully catch some people in some live meetings. Sound good? Look out, Frank. Okay. Worthington, Ohio is a city outside of Columbus, there are about 14,000 people. I spoke with their IT director on their implementation. These guys are really extremely happy with them. They just got installed with their hardware equipment. Pretty close. I don't know, maybe want to turn some lights off maybe. They've had 2 meetings here recently that have been loaded. But they're about the same size as us. They're the same equipment. And this is their actual their government website. Please don't judge the current city of Amherst website when you look at this. The IT department is well aware. So under live stream and video, you'll actually see what is archived and what is available to stream. And we're going to see if they're actually, we'll try to watch them live, if they're actually running. I don't know what their schedule is.
Looks at 7:30, Monday
There you
at
go.
7.
So prior to the meeting starting, they got a slide up right now. The meeting will begin shortly. Somewhere where they're watching, monitoring this meeting right now, their their audio is muted. When it's time to go live, they press a button, unmute it. The people watching see and hear the meetings in session. They drop the slide and they begin the production of the actual video, the live production of the live video. To give you an example of what that would look like, we can go into the archive search. Let me get rid of the live here. You can see they actually only have 2 videos. These guys went live in July. They were in recess in August, only have 2 videos this month. But if we actually go to the city council meeting, you'll see that it comes up in an iframe such as this. The agenda is over on the left. It is also, the PDF of the agenda is on the right. At any time, you can actually go full screen and watch the videos that they actually did. And you can see how the video switching and the zooming is happening as the meeting is taking place. Well, let's say in this case, we want to hear the public hearings on the legislation. It looks like I've lost my video index on the left, so I'm just going to refresh real quick. I want to hear regulation of massage establishments. So to hear that, I'm going to just click on that link. That's going to take us right to that point in the video in the discussion. Let's go to finance report instead. Again, you can watch it in the small windows with the agenda, or we can actually just watch. We can actually go full screen and watch the video.
Been a couple of months for the finance department. Probably hear a lot from you here over the next few months. President Michael, members of council, we have before you the July and August 2018 financial report for the city of Worthington. Just a few of the highlights. The fund balance for all funds increased from 26
Stop
million
there.
to
Beechwood also, City of Beechwood here in Ohio also has this as well. Our video live stream for recorded meetings. We'll see if we can hit them live. Looks like they're not running it, so they're running their slides and the PSA stuff. Here's our actual text search we talked about before. It does an agenda search for it. So I don't know what their agenda items are. Let's look for, see, I did a couple searches already. Let's look for the word agenda. It will actually go search through all the videos and looking through the agendas of which items say agenda in it, with dates as well. So back on June 25th, they had a committee of the whole. We'll look at this right here. We just hit play, and we're able to watch that video at that point. The actual, let me see if I can find. City of Overland also uses their system, not the full extent of it, but you can see this is actually at work as well. Let's see if we can get them live. Maybe not. Oh, there.
provide number title.
So this is a live meeting of Overland City Council right now. idea is obviously to more accessibility to everybody involved, actual more transparency by being able to search the different agenda items. And I would like to find the one thing on the,
January 1st, 2018.
if I can find, Upper Arlington is another one. Again, it's all pretty much the same system, so we'll see if we catch them live as well. We will begin shortly. That's pretty much the sense of this. Again, there's the sound search, which does the same thing as the text search. Gives the ability to find those words that have been recognized or historically throughout the archives and videos. That is the gist of what they see. I don't know of any live Facebook live feeds, but the same feed can also be sent through YouTube Live or Facebook Live. There's some kind of stipulation that if Facebook says if you're going to use us, you can't use anybody else, so it'll be one or the other. That's the way they are. If our Nexus equipment is compatible with our current cable channel is compatible, we've been having issues, some of late, with that equipment. If that equipment is compatible with the new system, which we believe it is at this point, we'll still be able to broadcast on the cable channel as long as that equipment holds out simultaneously. It's the cable channel and live stream. That's not a promise, but that's a potential compatibility would be there. That's all I had.
Mr. Miller?
Sure.
If we go through YouTube, is there ways to keep out advertising and what have you through this? Is this some, because YouTube advertises all over the place.
Right.
I don't think we want something popping up on our.
I don't know the actual answer to that. I know there are certain ways you can actually restrict certain videos from not showing the advertising, but I don't know what the consequences are. I don't know if we can have some kind of special arrangement because of our classification as a municipality. I don't know that.
I would say we notice what pops up there and somebody's watching our video.
Right
Just
now,
a thought.
we would take our archive amount, put it in our new archive system. We'd be limited on searching capabilities at that point, depending on how much more work we wanted to do. At that point, we wouldn't have to be using Facebook at all, or I'm sorry, YouTube at all. We could stream live through Facebook, or we don't have to do it through Facebook either. They can come to the website and actually stream there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Van Truen?
A few questions. First of all, this is really cool. This is the kind of cool stuff that I was expecting to see from you when you were named this position, so thanks for this good job with that. I fully expected you to bring us really neat stuff like this. Thanks for the hard work you did on this. So I do have a few questions that I wrote down. So this company does the post-production themselves to identify which when discussions on specific agenda items begin. Is that correct? So there's an individual who does that, sits and watches the whole.
So during the live, they won't be able to index during the live streaming, but during, like you said, during post-production, they'll compare that to the actual agenda items, then index them appropriately.
Okay, all right. So we would have to send them an agenda. There's a person who sits down and then identifies. And I'm assuming that this is very similar in multiple municipalities in terms of them having an agenda. Agenda items are laid out, and the employee knows how to go through the video, identify where they are, tag them, and then we go through. This looks to me like a great resource not only for residents to watch current city council and committee meetings, but also a good record-keeping tool for future council members as well, correct? I mean, this is going to be available to people, hopefully 10 years down the line, who want to look at specific agenda items and what the conversations were on them, right?
Correct.
Are they stored anywhere else? In other words, if we can't integrate this right away on our website, is there another place people can go to watch these archived, another URL to go to watch these archived
Yes,
videos?
we can. The URL is actually just embedded within the website that you see.
Okay.
So it is a separate domain.
And you do plan on integrating this into the city website eventually?
Absolutely.
Do you have a time frame, or I'm not trying to pin you down?
To actually get into the city's website won't be the issue. What we need to do is redo the whole city website. It is not up to the standards of 1980s quality.
Okay. And I would encourage, before exploring Facebook, YouTube, all that, making sure that we're able to house this in our own house, so to speak, on our own website before we rely on third parties to have complete control over it.
It would be an additional control, but I agree.
Okay.
It would
I'm
be
a big believer in not having the only place that you have these available be someplace where you're subject to the whims of these companies who can
Agreed.
delete your page or do whatever they want with it. Joe referred a little bit to that, but,
Yeah,
this,
so it would always be with website. The Facebook streaming or the YouTube live would be in addition to.
well, good, it's good to have you back up here talking to us, good job, this is really exciting stuff, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Dembinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree, it looks awesome. And I also would like to echo what Mr. Van Truren just said. I like the idea of having an archive on premises, or at least on something that we control for very much the same reason. So I hope that's somehow played into.
The content we do own, regardless of what service we're using, so if we ever ended services with any of the providers, whether it's this company or another company that is our content, we will have that with us as well.
Okay, that's good to know. Could you elaborate maybe a little bit, and maybe it's getting ahead, on what like the length of contract might be, and particularly the hardware support? Because when I look over this, I see these cameras, they say they support RS-232 and 485, which seems rather proprietary to me, as opposed to just.
I think it's there for compatibility rate purposes, right? Because some systems are going to be RS-232 as well, so necessarily. The support on equipment, I believe, is 3 years, and the cameras are 1 year. We do not offer service support plans. I asked specifically about that. Our maintenance plan is, to be quite honest, we don't have that issue. If the 24/7 support, when there's a failure, we ship it out, and you're better off cost-wise than running the service plans.
Okay, because I know like we've had some problems in the past with the phones, and that was something that you worked diligently to overcome. I would be concerned about falling to the same issue here with a proprietary camera that really only works with their system, as opposed to just an RTS power over Ethernet type camera or something like that. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Janik?
Thank you, Mr. Brookenbach. It's very interesting, very compelling kind of information.
By the way, it sounds like I'm wrong, you get ready to start, in case you're there.
One question I have is in relation to, you mentioned that if we still have the equipment and the availability or the means to live broadcast this on the cable station, would we still have the ability to put the meeting on there as well after it's recorded, or no?
Yeah, that, as long as that equipment runs, as long as that equipment lasts,
Right.
and if we don't want to repair it down the road, because again, it's getting a little flaky of late, we can still do those, yes.
Okay.
Now, the question is going to be, do you want to?
Right.
Because it's going to be, we're going to have to actually add additional work. We're going to have the video post-production done in an archive availability through the website. Do we want to take that back down, upload it back to the devices here to be able to do that? I mean, that's something that we have to consider if we want to or not. The ability will be there. I will double check on the ability, how the ease of the ability to download meetings, recorded meetings, and uploading again. Uploading to the devices now is quite easy. Olga takes care of those now. We'll have to make sure that we can easily download from the archive service, which I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure we can do. But the question is going to be, do we really want to?
Because I know there's several seniors in the community that watch it on TV, and my concern would be if they're not used to using computers or don't have a computer, how would they go for the live streaming option?
Absolutely. I understand that. We're trying to get it to as many people as we possibly can.
And then secondly, you mentioned Oberlin did not go with all the features.
Yeah,
Is it kind of an a la carte type?
It can be.
It can be.
Absolutely. Oberlin itself is actually sticking with their local cable. They have a co-op down in Oberlin. They're sticking with their local channel and using some of their services for the production.
Okay. But you feel this
They're-
would
it's
be
their
our
live
best
stream.
move to use as much as they're offering us in terms of?
I do.
Is there much of a price break or?
Yes. Oh. Yes. Well, it sounds like we're busy. Yeah, so there's, in my opinion, it is, and for a couple of reasons. One is, again, it's that serviceability, right? We've got a company that can handle any kind of questions. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be Mrs. Silk. It could be the mayor. When whoever's here and that relationship is with that company, is going to give us the serviceability as opposed to having multiple people in place to who do we go to get this done, who do we go to that done. It is a really a turnkey, and I hate to use the word turnkey because we've been bitten by that a little bit here in the past, but it's really a turnkey solution. I think it's the best interest of the city for that.
And then finally, do we have, I mean, I think Mr. Van Turen alluded to this, do we have the support structure internally? Or something like this in terms of?
Absolutely. With the fiber project that was in place,
Right.
we have the ability, that leads to a lot of the connectivity we can do within the city with improving services and processes internally.
Great. I think it's a great move. Thank you.
Mr. Wienarski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just a couple quick questions, maybe more than a couple. But with regards to this, is there like a 1-year plan, 3-year plan, 5-year plan? I'm guessing originally you would be doing council meetings. Would we expand that to other committees? Where do you see this initially and versus 5 years down the road?
Initially, we priced out for the yearly service for this was for the 50 meetings total, which is council committee meetings. We don't use those 50, we use them from other meetings. That's for the index and services, right? The actual index the agendas, doing all that post-production work. We also have up to 120 hours a year that we can use for other types of specialized meetings. Maybe we want to do a planning commission, there was something special. We can, with no post-production, just stream it and archive it, and we can do that as well, additionally. There is no 1, 5, 3-year, multiple-year contract with this company. This company's status is the price that you go in on that first year, you have that price for life. You're locked into it for life. No increases ever, which is very appealing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bugerbach. A couple other items here. Assuming this goes through, and I strongly encourage council to vote in favor of it. I like it. How are you going to get the word out to the community? Any ideas? If you got some money extra money, like a direct mail piece to community members, public speaking or whatever?
I have a lot of ideas, but that would have to be handled by the administration.
Okay, but there is some notions how to get this out to the masses that this is being unrolled, should it do. The communities, you mentioned Worthington, Upper Arlington, and Oberlin, correct?
Beechwood also, that's the
Beechwood.
that's the communities I know of in the state of Ohio.
Okay. Would you be the point of contact with Swagat, or would there be others?
As far as I know, that's the way we're planning. If we go forward, it would be with me being point of contact.
Okay. Let's see here. You answered the question about the infrastructure requirements. How do we know when we're live? Is there a light that goes on?
That's a good question, because it also answers the question if we went to an executive session. How do we know that they've quit recording and or audio? So there's a couple ways you can do this. One is you can have your phone on you to make sure if it's recording or not, or an iPad. I would suggest we replace the older CRT type television in the corner, mount a large television up there, and we just show the live broadcast right there on the TV, and you'll know what's actually being shown.
Okay. Very good. That completes my questions. Thank you.
And for that, for your, I think, your executive session, which I think Mr. Pecora would be interested in, the process would be we would just have to mute the microphones, let them know we're going to executive session. Much like the meeting will start shortly, a slide will come up, it'll say, we are in executive session, be back shortly. And we'll be able to visually see that and know that we've turned off the mics, that we're safe when the executive session will finish. During post-production, they will actually edit that part out, since it's kind of a waste of time.
Thank you. I did have a question. What is the ongoing cost of this? What's the annual cost?
Still working on that, but right now, the ongoing cost will be less than the monies we're spending for the cable TV as currently a year. We'll actually be saving some money.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, you had something else?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wow, you and I, we had this idea when we were up here of a 3-step approach, and the beauty of it is that you're in a position right now, maybe not on this side, but where you're at now to implement those. And I got to hand it to you. You know, we were big on fixing the room to make it user-friendly, make it so that anything that was being done in this room would be recorded, our general public would be able to see it. The 911 system, which is slowly getting implemented, and then what you're demonstrating to us now. And I appreciate the fact that you kept on this. I remember going to the last mayor, and he would kind of let us know he was going to hand it off to Mr. Costello. And our now Mayor Costello is in a position to do this, and this just goes to reaffirm what you made as a commitment, Mayor, to myself personally, about how you were gonna see this through and you were gonna put the steps in place. And I commend you for that. I appreciate it. I think it shows when you say you want to do something, it'll get done. And that builds a lot of trust between council and the mayor. And so, Mr. Bukovac, you coming through on this, guns a-blazing, looking really good. It just is another testament what I already knew, is that you're solid when it comes to this aspect of the industry. So this is so much a no-brainer. It's a softball you've thrown us. It's needed. We're behind the times. Our residents need this too. They need to know what's going on. And a lot of our communication problems may be solved. May not need mailers that hit the trash saying, hey, this is coming out, if they have the ability to quickly go live or quickly pull up some information and index and say what's going on about a certain issue. So with that, I have no problem moving 1843 to the floor.
Mr. Dembinski,
Second with question.
continue.
So actually, I guess the comment first. Perhaps one of the biggest benefits, which I was touched on by one of the other municipalities, is the ability to have PSAs on that "we're going to be starting soon" slide. I mean, we had people in here last week, talking about they didn't receive letters and there was some bad communication and things like that. We could put that information on there so it's even more easily and readily available, so that it's just right there. I mean, that way, if they're watching it, there's almost no way that stuff can be missed. So that could actually be a huge benefit in and of itself. This is in the finance committee, so we're just approving the money in this case. Will there be a follow-up ordinance, resolution, what have you, when we're going to go forward with it, or is this just something that the IT department, the IT department will take care of, or is that to be determined?
Is there a contract, Mr. Bukovac, that we have to sign?
I imagine there would be a contract, correct?
So there's certain dollar amounts that the administration has to follow before entering into a contract, so it's above that amount. I would assume we'd have to come back to council and ask them to approve the contract.
Would that be for the regular installation services or the mod?
This is probably for the yearly, so I would say this is it for the installation, and I assume you would enter into a contract.
Mr. Carlson.
I just have a question, since I'm going to be the one drafting the ordinance. Is the $50,000 for the acquisition of the equipment by the city of Amherst?
Yeah, the equipment, the training, and the installation of.
And does that have to be let out for bids in the ordinary process?
It's less than $50,000.
Just less than 50, so it doesn't, okay. But this has then nothing to do with entering and authorizing anyone to enter into a contract with this company or any other company. It's just the acquisition of the
Correct.
equipment, the training, but okay.
I've got a question.
Ms. Patek.
Steve, it says unlimited storage for specialty content and meetings. Assume that's on there, on the cloud somewhere.
Correct.
It's not, I heard a comment about on-premise. We're not gonna host any of this on-premise,
That is
correct?
correct, it's not going to be on premise.
Because I just imagine our server costs too. The more you store, the more resources you use from that perspective would only increase costs on
Yeah,
that.
I'm trying to keep our on-premise stuff to be strictly
Right.
city business.
Yeah.
Mr.
One
Janik.
more question, is there a feature for the people watching to ask questions? Or
Got Stephen here, could just throw up the questions, maybe, they could text Steve.
We could set some kind of live feed that scrolls next to the television if you want. You can do that now. We could, but that's up to you guys.
Anyone else with any new comments? Mr. Carlson.
I'm sorry again, is the equipment that you're acquiring the same equipment that's shown on page 7 of this?
I believe that's fairly close. There may be a couple items that's a simple diagram. Includes, you can see that integration with the presentation as well. There's a speaker at the podium. The switchers video switchers will be making those back and forth between the discussion and the presentation. I'm looking for that real quick for you, Mr. Carlson.
Did you prepare something other than this that would indicate what it is that we're acquiring, the other services we're acquiring
I did not.
independent of this? Okay.
I believe there might be a couple items that are not on there. Obviously, prior to getting involved into a contract or any kind of agreement, those items will be detailed out.
And just out of curiosity, if you were to acquire these items, does that kind of lock you in with the Swagat?
It would.
Okay.
To a certain extent, let me rephrase that, to a certain extent. Using their services for the monthly post-production and indexing, that would require certain aspects of this equipment. Otherwise, the streaming appliance and the cameras themselves can be purchased and used otherwise. The service is one of the aspects that's really attractive.
Mr. Pecor?
I think what Mr. Carlson is asking is this purchase of equipment at $50,000, and then are we acquiring other services that extend us past that $50,000 mark? And if so, we should probably do it in one, you can't have one without the other.
Understand.
We can't segregate costs to avoid,
Okay,
so.
understood.
So what does that mean, Mr. Lauderhicker? Should we bundle all this together, table it and bundle it together for a single
I
ordinance?
think it needs to be.
Yeah.
What period of time?
Well, depend, I mean,
A 1 year period, 2 year period,
Right, so
3 year,
we-
5
we-
years?
the council would have to discuss what period of time you'd want to be involved.
Because that'd be a year's, that's a yearly purchase and yearly expense as opposed to a capital outlay.
Understand, but I mean, we need to know, is a 3-year contract cheaper than a 2-year?
There's no.
I mean, is it?
There's no contract.
There's a year by year service
Okay,
that we're just locked in by that every year to be the same price. So I don't have to make, I'm not gonna get any financial benefit by going 3 years or 5 years
okay.
as opposed to 1 year. So that was my question about, do we bundle, iron down the actual yearly cost with the hardware cost for a first year expense or?
I think what Mr. Carlson is trying to allude to is this: if we purchase the equipment, could we say to swag it, we don't need any of your services? If the answer is no, then I think we need to have one contract and one set of legislation to deal with what you're addressing.
Okay.
So,
Or I can make a proposal as this estimated cost over a 3-year period.
well, I guess you need to know what you want to do. I guess the council needs to know what it wants to do.
Correct. What I want to do is different than maybe what they want to do.
Sure.
I think that if you have 1 year, since the cost is the same every year, once you get into the program, if you put a 1 year cost from, so I,
And define how much each successive year will be.
well, you said it would be the same. It's locked in for a lifetime.
But if I lump everything together in 1 year, you're gonna get the equipment installation costs and the 1 year. So
That's what, I think that's what Mr. Carlson is trying to say, is if we need them to make this equipment work for the city, it has to be put together. It's like if we went out to buy a police cruiser, we can't just go and buy the tires on one piece of legislation, buy the engine on another piece to keep it underneath where we might have to go out for bid. If the whole project is going to go over a certain, I think that we have to watch, do we have to send this out for bid? I think that's what Mr. Carlson is maybe concerned about.
I just had questions about kind of were we doing this piecemeal, were we kind of doing it as a package with service for the first year? How does that relate to the bidding process? Is it exempt? If it's exempt from the bidding process, why do we need?
Well, certain specialized services are exempt from the bidding processes. We'd have to look at that and see if
Yeah.
this technology and this service would be exempted, maybe. But I guess the question is can we simply just buy the equipment this year and not do anything with it, and then enter into a service contract for the next year? I don't know if that's really something that we should be doing. If it's exempt, it doesn't really matter.
So the hardware part is going to be less than $50,000, so we don't have to worry about the the bidding process.
Correct.
And then this may qualify as a professional service or other service that is exempt from the bidding.
Specialized service.
So that what we're doing by this ordinance is just authorizing the acquisition of the equipment and installation
And training.
and training, okay. Okay. Is there a budget account from which this is coming? Or there are?
Cable account.
Is there only one cable account?
Yes.
Probably capital expenditures, so.
Capital outlay.
Capital outlay?
Out of the
Okay.
cable account.
And training could fall within capital outlay?
I believe it'll all be paid out of the capital, or the cable fund,
Okay.
the service, the streaming, the support side.
Okay. Those are my questions. I wasn't questioning the wisdom of doing anything, I just wanted to know what I was gonna be doing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Silver?
Since there are 4 Ohio communities that are already using this, maybe we could look at the legislation they prepared and see what kind of thing that, approach they took.
Okay.
So that's
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, when you said that right now it's around 40, was that to get us up and running?
That is for this expenditure and the installation, procurement of the equipment, and the training. And travel expenses for those who are redoing the services.
And then there'll be a 1-year contract that'll be added on top of that.
Correct. It's a good expense every year.
And have they given you that amount for a yearly
Yeah,
contract?
we're working on a couple of dollar amounts, but it's under, it's well under, it's like, it's around $16,000
Okay.
per year.
So that would put us over the 50 if we put those together, the first year contract in. Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else?
Are we tabling this then? Should I withdraw
No,
mine?
I'm not suggesting that.
Or we're good with?
I wanted to find out what was going on. Unless the law director has a different idea. No, we're okay.
Okay. So my motion stands? Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further comments or questions, there's a motion on the floor to take A1843 to the floor of council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Dembinski?
Move to adjourn.
Mr. Miller?
Second, please.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We stand adjourned at 7:50.
Good evening. We're going to call this meeting of the Ordinance Committee on September 17th, 2018 at 7:50 p.m. The attendance from the previous meeting will be carried forward. We have one agenda item today, A-18-41, reappointment of 2 members to the Local Board of Tax Review. Mr. Treasurer, this was submitted by you. Would you like to speak to it, please?
Yes, thank you. This is more, I would say, housekeeping than anything. We need to, we're just a little bit late on reappointing these folks. We've called them and confirmed that they're still interested in serving. If it's up to council, if you guys want to use these two folks, or if you guys have other people that you want to use, now would be the time to discuss that. But basically, we need 2 individuals to fill this role. It would be the role if our tax office makes a decision with regard to somebody, their next remedy would be to go to this board to appeal that decision. So that's what we're asking to do.
Name of the other person, please.
Ron Kopko is the other one.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mayor, have you been approached by anybody else in regards to their interest in these positions, or Mr. Ramsey, for that matter?
Nobody else has shown any interest at all.
So these 2 are the only 2 that have shown interest, and that's good enough for me. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mrs. Basilic?
Is there any reason why we need to keep this at 2-year terms? Or Mr. Lovett, or
It's in the
Mr.
statute.
Assistant? Okay.
Yeah.
The state statute?
The
Yes, the
Auburn.
state said,
Okay,
yeah,
that's-
718.
That's the
or-
reason.
Is there any reason that this needs to be with an emergency? The piece of legislation that was provided to us was basically the one from 2016, which stated with emergency. However, I believe that went through in March of 2016, so the emergency kind of made sense. We got a little bit of time here. Do we need the emergency going forward, or can we just let this play out?
Well, we are tasked, because it's supposed to be January 1st of 18.
Oh, 18, sorry, okay.
Yeah, so we're a little bit behind, so that's why we're just asking for that. I don't think that it's not like this is a group that has a whole lot of issues that come before it on any kind of a frequent basis. So it's not, this is kind of, we use them when we need them, when the issues arise. So that's probably why this kind of goes unthought about for so long, because we just don't have those kinds of issues that pop up all that regularly, so.
Thank you. Does council have any further questions? Mr. Winarski?
No question, but I will make the motion to send this to Florida Council with emergency.
Mr. Cowger?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Chair votes aye as well. That's all I have, gentlemen. Mr. Winarski?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Cowger?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We are adjourned at 7:54.
Call to order executive meeting for agenda item A1842. We use the attendance from previous meetings. Before us, we have requesting that a part-time permanent tax assistant 1 position be established. Mr. Ramsey?
Yes, we have 2 things kind of going on in the income tax office / treasurer's office. One is we do have a greater workload, and I think we've talked about that in the past based upon the changes that had occurred in the law. We kind of expected that. The other thing that we've got going on is we're going to lose our deputy treasurer in the next probably year or 2 due to retirement. And she does a great job, but we're going to need to start thinking about the future and what we're going to have to do to start replacing her. The solution that we kind of came to is that we already have a permanent part-time position established, but we tend to use that person as needed. A lot of times it's Carol from Derek's office that'll come over and help whenever there's a lot of income tax returns coming through or whatever it might be. What we'd like to do is start another part-time position where maybe we can groom someone that might be able to take over for Karen, and then at the same time satisfy that need that we have more work to do. We're not asking for any additional money. This is all monies that we've planned for and put in the budget, so there's nothing that's gonna shake up the budget or anything. But that's basically our plan. The terms of that you see in here are basically taken from the deputy treasurer as well as the tax assistants, or the secretary, and kind of merged. We kind of used both of those as our templates and kind of merged them and came up with this, which is, we think, a pretty, a good plan, if you will. So that's our proposal to council. We hope you agree with it.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Anyone from the floor of council wish to speak on this or have a question? Mr. Dembinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is under section 4 vacations, it looks like they're going to get vacation as soon as they would start. Is it the standard of our city now to not have them wait a year before vacations kicked in?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you, because this is the first time I've ever had to hire someone like this.
So I did look at a previous application that came before council a couple years ago, and they had waited a year before they received vacation. So I think that this probably should be amended to at least do the same.
I can swallow that.
Mr. Law Director, Assistant Law Director, do you want me to actually make the motion, or is that something you would like to fix before it comes to council?
We could, we could amend it on the floor right now. If you want to amend it,
Okay.
seek to amend it.
Mr. Chair, I would like to actually amend section 4 under vacations, and I'll let the law department work out the legalese, but so that the vacations do not take effect until 1 year after the date of employment starts.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend section 4 of this ordinance, establishing the salary and benefit of the part-time position. Do I have a second? Mr. Winarski.
So moved.
So we have a motion and a second to amend the ordinance as stated. Any other comments or questions before we call a vote? All those in favor of amending the ordinance A1842 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Passes 7-0. Mr. Winarski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a couple questions for you, Mr. Ramsey. Actually, this will go to section 3, the very last sentence. I believe there's a typo. It says from cashing our other sick time. I think it should be cashing out other sick time.
You are correct, sir.
I don't know if that makes a difference or not. Kind of echoing what Mr. Dembinski, this seems to be a very generous package. To start out right away with sick leave, holiday pay. It's been amended for the vacations and stuff. I understand jury leave. It just seems like a very getting package for this person for a while.
Yeah, and in fact, we actually took this language verbatim out of the deputy treasurer's ordinance whenever that was passed almost 20 years ago. Maybe it would be appropriate to, like, after a year of, what we did with the hours. So it is kind of, it's based upon it's prorated, if you will. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of keep it at least consistent, other than maybe, at least what their environment and maybe what they could expect would be consistent. So I would say that's my response to that. If council's not comfortable with it, we could make a change in that regard. But that's how we got to this place, was we took the old ordinance and put it in here.
Yeah. I'll just speak for myself real quickly and let the mayor speak, but if this was an additional position, I would ask for the additional year. But since you're grooming someone and you want to bring in someone, like I said.
I appreciate your patience. Mr. Winarski, so you're fine with the amendment that Councilman Dembinski put out there?
Correct.
And has been voted on? And no further amendments by
Correct, I do have one question though after the mayor speaks.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
There are some, and I'm not speaking in favor or against this position, but there are some things mandated by state when you're a municipal employee, and sick time is one of them. I mean, you're guaranteed 4.6 hours for every 8 hours worked when you're a municipal employee, so I believe
That's how it's written.
But I believe that's from the get-go. I think that's one of those benefits you get from the start. You can add some wording about probation if you wanted to, and that does limit some of those things, but I think sick time is one you get from the start. Not 100% sure. We could talk to the auditor and some other people we talk to with those kind of issues, but I can help out with that stuff. Again, not speaking in favor or against the ordinance, but some of those things are mandated.
Okay. Then my other question, how many hours do you actually expect this person to work? And the reason I'm asking is because if they cash out their sick time, I believe that's a component in factoring in the Affordable Health Care Act. So if you have them at 30 and they cash out, I think they automatically become eligible for health care, whether they're part-time or 30-hour part-time. Something to noodle.
Well, I mean, yeah, our thought was, not to exceed 30 hours.
Yeah, if they're at 30.
At 30, is it?
Yeah, or more. And if they cash out, if they use the cash out option here, that equates itself and it's 5 hours and then eligible. Actually, you're required to pay them, if I'm not mistaken.
Should it be? I don't even know if it's written in the ordinance. So.
Now, as long as you're only working them 29 and a half hours a week on average, it'll be okay.
If we're cognizant of that, a maximum of 30 hours, okay. And I think we just have to be cognizant of that and not, not get ourselves into that bind.
Okay.
I think is what we'll have to do.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Winarski. One point I will make that I've noticed is these holidays, I don't see why we should have a problem with it. No other city worker is going to be working at the same time that they would be. So I know it's a pay, but at $15 an hour to do our tax services and work in the tax office is, I think, not all that generous. So $15 an hour is, I think, for this position, a good entry point. I don't think it's too high for sure. And I think these other benefits are going to allow them to, if it is going to be the same person, to seamlessly transition in. So, but thank you for the pointing out of the total hours that can get the tax department in trouble in the city with maybe some extra benefits that we weren't intending. So thank you for that. Do we have any other comments? Yes, Mr. Janik.
There was mention of grooming this position or the position that's retiring. Can we do that by law in terms of saying that this hire will be definitely moving into that next full-time transitional?
Because it's if it's a
Well,
silver service.
We're not saying that. It's not,
Okay.
it's just a
So it's
non-exempt.
implied.
Yeah, I mean, that's all right. The hope is that this person would want to transition from part-time into full-time and that kind of thing. We won't know that until we start hiring somebody or, interviewing people.
And do we know what the rate of pay for the full-time is? Do you know what that is?
I don't know what it is exactly. I have the ordinance in front of me. But it's different now because it's, I don't know how many years later.
Right.
Somewhere probably between 27 and 30.
Yeah, right around there.
Thank you.
And I don't know if this plan will work, but we're trying to kill two birds with one stone and just be smart about it. We need another person to help around the office anyway, which we need. But.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Mr. Dominski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a general question. The city doesn't have an official HR department, correct? That would oversee this and the differences between contracts and blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Which would explain some of the differences between vacation when it's proposed and all that kind of stuff and holidays and whatnot, so. Okay, maybe something in the future we might want to consider just to even things out, board across, or planning board across the things, so. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dominski, and the ordinance chair. We'll have all kinds of time to
Yeah,
work
sure.
on those things. Absolutely. Any further questions, comments, concerns before we close this up? We have a amended item, but we do not have a motion yet. So if I can entertain a motion to move this to the floor. Mr. Janik?
So moved.
We have a motion on the floor to move item A 1842 to the floor of council. I had no emergency request on that, so that as is. Correct, Mr. Ramsey?
It has in here in declaring an emergency. I guess my thought would be that it would be necessary in order to help provide the services of the city. I'm not sure if, I suppose we could go either way with it. You know, we could make it work if we didn't have the emergency. We
Mr.
would prefer
Janik?
to have it.
Mr. Janik, would you like to,
Fine.
would you like to amend that
With the
motion?
amendment, yes.
Okay. To the floor with emergency.
Mhm.
We have a motion on the floor to take A 1842 to the floor with emergency. Do I have a second? Mr. Winarski, thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the floor and second to take A 1842 to the floor, requesting a part-time permanent tax assistant position to be established with emergency. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 7-0. Motion passes. Mr. Demitsky.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn on the floor. Second, I hope, Mr. Carver.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Adjourn at 8:10. Thank you.
The old one was called
You going to Dennis?